Mukuro Ikusaba, the 16th student, lying hidden somewhere in the school. The one they call the ultimate despair. Watch out for her. Hi guys, I'm kyokaxiavon and welcome back to my channel. I got back from my trip a few days ago, so I decided it's about time I did another Women in Blank video. I've decided to tackle a game series I have a big love-hate relationship with. That series is Danganronpa. Danganronpa is a visual novel centered around 16 students trapped in the elite school they attend, Hope's Peak Academy. The only way they can escape is by killing one of their classmates and getting away with it. Throughout the game, you have to solve these murders to ensure that you survive the killing game. Danganronpa was first released in 2010 with its first title, Trigger Happy Havoc. I'll be covering the women of each game in different parts, as there is too much to cover in a single video, so I will only be discussing the female characters from the first game in this video. My discussion will include a majority of the major plot points in the game, so there will be spoilers for Trigger Happy Havoc throughout the video. Subscribe or you'll be executed by Monokuma. All that aside, let's begin. Danganronpa is a fascinating series, with a vibrant setting, mostly well-written characters, and a rocking soundtrack. What could go wrong? Unfortunately, I have a lot of gripes with the series to the point where I struggle to recommend the game series to others. Don't get me wrong, Danganronpa will always mean a lot to me, as it was one of the games that got me back into gaming, but it's certainly dated. The fan service is ignorable at best and creepy at worst, and its approach to topics such as DID is pretty distasteful. While I don't think Danganronpa needs to have absolutely perfect representation, it should at least tackle such a serious topic better than it did. Personally, I have the least amount of issues with this game out of the three. I'm surprised that so many people have this game as their least favourite in the entire series. It's much more simple compared to the other games, which for this series isn't saying much, but that's what I like about it. The atmosphere is claustrophobic, which really amps up the fear and anticipation for the characters and the player. But what about the girls of the 78th class? Are they just as well thought out and presented as the male characters, or are they just a mouthpiece for fan service? Let's start with the ultimate idol, Sayaka Maizono.
Hi, I'm Sayaka Maizono.
So Maizono is the first victim of the entire series, which is iconic in its own, but even before her death, she was unforgettable. We quickly learn that she and the protagonist Naegi actually went to the same middle school. As they have this connection, they decide to stay close to each other throughout the game, and as a result, Maizono sort of becomes his sidekick in the first chapter. As mentioned prior, Maizono is the ultimate idol. She grew up watching idols on TV, and as a result, she wanted to become one herself. She worked hard to make her dreams a reality, but as a result, she had to do some unsavory things to become successful. It's clear throughout the first chapter that she likes Naegi, whether that be platonically or romantically. Things take a turn for the worse when Monokuma introduces his first motive. Each student watched a video consisting of those they cared about getting hurt, and this clearly had a large effect on Maizono. She sees her fellow idols from her group lying lifelessly on the ground, and as a result, she decides that she needs to escape, no matter what. She plans a murder, one that relies entirely on her friendship with Naegi. She swaps rooms with him as a part of her plan, but her victim ends up turning the tides on her, and as a result, she's killed. The fact that Maizono was so desperate to protect the members of her group was both heartwarming but also sad to witness. She clearly cares a lot about them, but it also shows her insecurities to the player. Does she care about them to the point of murder? Or is she just that desperate to protect her career as an idol? It is fascinating to have an idol character in the cast, as idol culture as a whole is very toxic. But unfortunately, the writers don't delve too much into it as I would have hoped. While she made a very selfish decision, it was clear that in her final moments she regretted it, as she wrote Leon's name on the wall behind her in her blood. Maizono was written as the girl next door type of character. She's cute, sweet, and supposedly the person you can trust most. I like how our expectations are completely flipped, as while she was a kind person, she would put all of that aside if it got in the way of her dream. I really like Maizono's character, and while her time in Danganronpa was very short, she left a lasting impression on the series as a whole.
She didn't even have a chance to resist.
While I am aware that Chihiro's gender identity is portrayed in a very confusing way by the writers, I've decided to include them in this video as for a majority of the game, Chihiro is assumed to have been assigned female at birth. Chihiro is the ultimate programmer, and their talent becomes very useful for the students as they end up developing an AI called Alter Ego, which the remaining students use after their death. Chihiro was relentlessly bullied as a child for being weak, and as a result, Chihiro decided to dress in female clothing so they wouldn't bully them anymore. But this only made Chihiro's insecurities worse. In Chapter 2, Monokuma's motive consists of their secrets. Each student is given a piece of paper with their secret on it, and if no one is murdered, all of their secrets would be revealed. Chihiro's secret was to do with their gender, and as a result they felt more motivated to become stronger, as they wanted to be honest with their classmates. Chihiro confides in Mondo about their secret as the two had gotten close, and Mondo was a perfect representation of the strength that Chihiro wanted. This unfortunately gets Chihiro killed, as while Mondo is physically strong, he struggled with his guilt over his brother's death and he envied Chihiro's internal strength. Chihiro is similar to Mizono in the sense that they were perceived as a kind, sweet girl, but even though they wanted to become a better person, they suffered because of it. This case is one of my favourites in the series, as Chihiro's murder looks so brutal thanks to Tagami's manipulation of the crime scene, when it really was a very simple kill done by the person that Chihiro admired most. Chihiro is another character that had a lasting impression, to the point where the AI they created, Alter Ego, appeared in future entries in the series.
I am Celestia Ludenberg.
So Celestia Ludenberg is the first female character so far who differs from how women have been presented up until this point. From the get-go, she's someone untrustworthy and strange. She always had a smile plastered on her face, and it was never genuine. She's the ultimate gambler, a title she achieved by gambling against dangerous individuals in her youth, such as the Yakuza. She participated in these dangerous games as her main goal in life was to be incredibly rich and successful. Celeste came from a typical family and she grew to detest the normality of her life. She ended up growing attached to European culture of the 1800s, such as Victorian England, and as a result, changed her name to make it sound more European. She is known for her iconic outfit, which is a nod to Gothic Lolita fashion. Throughout the game, she has a polite demeanour, though the others are quick to notice her consistent lies. She takes centre stage in Chapter 3, but Monokuma gives them a money motive. If someone murdered another and got away with it, they would receive $10 million. This amount of money would make Celestia's dream a reality. Her greatest wish in life was to own a Gothic medieval castle and to be served by multiple vampire butlers. She manipulates Hifumi, the ultimate fanfic writer, to do her bidding. Using Hifumi's obsession over Alter Ego, she tells him that Ishimaru hid the AI so only he could use it. Celestia crafts an absurd lie that he threatened her with inappropriate pictures he had taken of her. Hifumi easily believes the lie, and together they plan Ishimaru's murder. While Celestia is known for being a fantastic liar, which I do think is true, her innocent, scared act after she got attacked by Robo Justice wasn't her best performance. It was so out of left field for her character, to the point where her plan ultimately falls to shambles. Even the characters are aware of Celestia's dramatic shift in personality during this case, and as a result, all her extensive scheming is easily unravelled. Along with this, we discover her true identity, Teiko Yasuhiro. With nothing left to lose, Celeste is voted as the Blackened. Even so, she stays true to who she is. She doesn't feel remorse towards Hifumi or Ishimaru's deaths, nor does she show fear towards her execution. Though by now, that iconic fake smile of hers isn't hiding anything. She willingly goes to her execution, her demeanour calm and composed, as she believes her execution will be extravagant and wacky like the ones thus far. She stands on a stage with a large audience of Monokumas. She holds her hands against her chest in a prayer-like position, as the wood beneath her feet is lit aflame. As the stage is swallowed by the fire, Celestia's face remains calmly neutral. This was the death deserving of someone such as Celestia Ludenberg. But, of course, Monokuma wouldn't let her have that satisfaction. Before she could be burnt at the stake, a fire truck crashes into her. In the end, she was killed by a vehicle, one of the most common deaths nowadays. While I do think Celestia's initial stride to break out of the ordinary came from genuine ambition and determination, these traits twisted into selfishness and greed as she got older. And for the first time in her gambling career, she is defeated in the worst way possible, for Celeste at least. I have always found her to be a really interesting character. Apart from Junko and Kirigiri, though I guess it's more Nagi's execution than Kirigiri's, she is the only female character to be executed in the first game. I love the burning of the Versailles Witch, as it is exactly what the Danganronpa executions should be. a torturous, over-the-top display to punish the blackened and make them feel as much despair as possible in their final moments. I can't imagine what Celeste was thinking when she saw that fire truck speeding towards her, but it was completely deserved. She dedicated her life to tricking others so she could get what she wanted, but in the end, it all came back to bite her. While I wouldn't say that Celeste is a favourite character of mine, she is certainly not forgettable and she is an excellent foil to Naegi. While Naegi uses his bonds with the others to find his own personal strength of hope, Celeste toys with others, only disposing of them after they were no longer useful to her. I love how she doesn't have a redemption arc. This is just how Celeste is.
But I'm a girl.
Sakura is the complete opposite of Celeste. She's kind and loyal towards her friends and a big threat in an altercation. She is the ultimate martial artist. She is from the Ogami family who owned their own dojo for 3 centuries. As the only woman in her family, Sakura trained harder than anyone else to prove herself, and by the age of 14, she was the strongest fighter in her family. She ended up developing a crush on the strongest fighter in the world, Kenshiro. She was frustrated in herself for liking the person she wanted to surpass, but Kenshiro validated her feelings, reassuring her that she did not have to be manly to become the strongest human. While many are afraid of her because of her appearance, she was easily likable because of her kind nature. She quickly became close friends with Aoi Asahina, and throughout the killing game they stayed close to each other. After Celeste's execution, Sakura is angry. She hates playing Monokuma's games, so she decides to fight back. Naegi sees this fight take place, and discovers that she was the mole for Monokuma all along. Monokuma recruited Sakura as his mole in Chapter 1. Her role was to kill if no one else did. She was blackmailed into this partnership with Monokuma, as if she did not comply, it would put her family and Kenshiro in danger. So being the selfless girl that she is, Sakura complied until she reached that breaking point. Due to her breaking their partnership, Monokuma tells everyone that Sakura was the traitor all along. This gets a wide range of reactions from her peers, from fear to anger and even acceptance. Regardless of Sakura's betrayal, Asahina still supported her friend, and as a result, she gets into a heated discussion with genocider Sho. Sho injures Asahina's arm, and Sakura is left feeling incredibly guilty. She decides to end this, once and for all. She writes a suicide note for her peers that states that she wanted the others to stick together, while also mentioning her own suspicions of Monokuma tampering with their memories. She invites Hagakure, Tagami, and Fukawa to have a discussion with her, as they were the 3 who were against her after the mole reveal. Only Hagakure and Fukawa showed up, and it couldn't have gone worse. Convinced that Sakura was going to kill him, Hagakure hits her on the head with a bottle. Fukawa sees Sakura's blood, which triggers her switch to Sho. Sho hits her on the head with another bottle and then flees the scene. Asahina sees Sakura and is horrified to see her covered in blood. Sakura reassures her and asks her to make a protein shake. After Asahina leaves, Sakura locks the door and consumes the bottle of poison she obtained from the chemistry lab. Sakura dies, alone but beaming, as she was certain that her death would end the killing game. While there are 2 more chapters after Sakura's death, she was able to end it with her death, as the rest of the students survive. It is Sakura's senseless act that makes the others come together, determined to uncover all of Monokuma's secrets and to end the killing game for good. Throughout the game, Sakura was always the level-headed person you could rely on. Even with her intimidating appearance, she was always kind and patient with those that hadn't wronged her, and in the end, she sacrificed herself for her peers, which in my opinion makes her the strongest human alive. I like how Sakura's death was simple and peaceful, as it starkly contrasts to the deaths from the rest of the series. The Killing Game is a show, for both its fictional audience and the player, but for once, we get a moment of peace. Finally, Sakura was able to take back control of her life, though as a result, she had to sacrifice everything. There really is no one else like Sakura in Danganronpa. While the scary-looking but actually wholesome character thing continues in the future games, neither have much of an impact on the story of Sakura. So, who ended up surviving the Killing Game? I just want to get this character out of the way, so let's talk about Toko Fukawa, the ultimate writing prodigy.
Wow, hello there!
Fukawa's upbringing is nothing short of tragic. She was raised by her father and 2 mothers, as when she was born, another child passed away. This made it unclear as to which mother Fukawa belonged to. While neither of the women wanted her, they took her in anyway. Her mothers greatly disliked Fukawa, so throughout her childhood she was severely neglected and abused, and as a result, She had dissociative identity disorder, or DID for short, a condition where someone will develop a separate personality called an alter. This alter will serve a specific role for the host, such as containing traumatic memories or acting as a protector for when the body gets into dangerous situations. There are a lot of harmful stereotypes around DID, which I just find completely baffling, as the victims of DID are traumatized individuals, not serial killers. Though, of course, Fukawa's alter is exactly that. Genocide Sho was a serial killer who specifically targeted men she was attracted to. Sho's personality also greatly contrasts with Fukawa's. While Fukawa is quiet and distrustful of others, Sho is loud and vulgar. Fukawa was bullied at school, though she did have a friend, though he was moving to Shikoku. Fukawa confessed her feelings for him, but he embarrassed her by pinning it on the class's bulletin board. As a result, Sho killed him, making that boy her first victim. Later into her childhood, Fukawa was asked on a date by a boy in her class. Fukawa spent a long time preparing for the date, but halfway through the movie, he left. She found out that the boy only went on a date with her because he was dared to by his friends. While Fukawa's love life seemed to just make her suffer, it was her romantic nature that led her to becoming a writer. Fukawa's teacher read one of her love letters and was moved by her words, insisting to Fukawa that she should become an author. And so, she did. She became a well-known romance author with one of her novels, So Lingers the Ocean, becoming a bestseller. She won several awards for her work, and as a result, was recruited for Hope's Peak Academy's 78th class. In the killing game, Fukawa became quickly infatuated with Tagami, to the point where she tells him about her alter, Sho. Tagami uses this to his advantage and frames Fukawa by manipulating Chihiro's body to make it look like they were a victim of Genocide Sho. During the trial, Fukawa switches to Genocide Sho when she faints, revealing to the group that she was a serial killer. I feel like Tagami's actions here aren't talked about enough, as he completely disrespects Chihiro's body and adds Fukawa's condition to the group. I understand that Fukawa was annoying him, but damn. While I do think he is an interesting character, he really is such a douche in the killing game, and this is by far his worst offense. I think the dramatic reveal of Genocide Sho made many forget about how disgusting Tagami's actions were this chapter, and how Fukawa just can't seem to get a break. With that being said, Fukawa is no passive bystander in this either. As mentioned prior, she is greatly distrustful of others, and as a result is spiteful and rude to those who aren't Tagami. While this does stem from her childhood trauma, it makes her very unlikable for the player. Her character is explored further in Despair Girls, and this really helped her character for me, as while she was still the Fukawa we saw in Trigger Happy Havoc, she ends up becoming a voice of reason for Komaru. I won't go too much further into this as I'm thinking of covering Ultra Despair Girls in another video, but all in all, Fukawa is a tragic character. One that was treated as a joke by her peers and an annoying nuisance to the player. It doesn't help that Genocide Sho encapsulates all the harmful stereotypes of those with DID, which is just used as a crazy plot twist early in the game. I really wish that the writers tackled this a lot better, as there are so many better ways they could have used her condition for the story. For example, she could have been seen near a crime scene, but she might not have been able to recall anything from it, as a different alter might have been present during the trial. As I said at the beginning of the video, I really don't expect Danganronpa to excellently represent anything as by nature. The game series is wacky and otherworldly, but I do wish that they approached Fukawa's DID with the respect that it deserved.
What are you saying?
So next is Aoi Asahina, the ultimate swimmer. While Asahina specialises in swimming, she is good at pretty much every sport there is, and this seems to run in the family as her brother, Yuta, is also a very good swimmer. While we don't know much about Asahina's childhood, we can assume that she was raised in a loving household due to her kindness and optimistic nature. As mentioned prior, Asahina had a very close relationship with Sakura and can be seen together for most of the game. As the game progresses, Asahina's cheerful demeanour is replaced with one of despair. In Chapter 3, she cries to herself in the middle of the night, mourning Mondo and Chihiro's deaths. When Sakura ends her own life, Asahina is tricked by Monokuma's fake suicide note. She tries to manipulate the trial to get them all killed, but in the end, her lies are uncovered. While there isn't much to say about Asahina as she isn't involved much in the main drama of the story, I loved her shift in Chapter 4. While she wasn't necessarily best friends with everyone, she still greatly cared for her peers as she deeply cares about everyone around her. But when those people supposedly drove her best friend over the edge, this changes. This trial really shows how selfless Asahina is. She was willing to sacrifice everyone, including herself, to avenge her best friend without hesitation. While I do wish that Asahina had more of an impact on the overarching story, she's still one of my favourite characters in the series as a whole. She's so genuine and supportive towards her friends, and while she struggles in the killing game, she's able to bounce back, which shows her strength. Sometimes characters don't need to be complicated to be compelling, and she's a perfect example of that.
That's not something you need to take your time saying.
Speaking of complicated, let's discuss Kyoko Kirigiri, the ultimate detective. Though until chapter 5, we don't know her talent, but let's be honest, it was pretty obvious. She pretty much carries most of the trials, and it was no shock to discover that she was a detective. Though she isn't just any old detective. She comes from a family of famous detectives, but her father and headmaster of Hope's Peak, Jin, wasn't interested in joining the family business, and as a result, he was kicked out of the family by her granddad. After she was born, Jin was invited back to the family, though it wasn't with good intentions. Her granddad wanted to make Kyoko his heir, so as soon as they rejoined the family, she started training to become a detective. Her mother passed away when she was young, though Kyoko was forbidden to see her in her final moments, as her grandfather prioritized her detective work. Outraged, Jin leaves the family again, and Kyoko's granddad gaslights her into thinking that Jin used her mother's death as an excuse to leave the family. Yikes. For the rest of her upbringing, Kyoko becomes close to her granddad, who treats her well, though he drills into her skull that she needs to be the perfect heir for the Kirigiri family. As a result, she is very stoic as she prioritizes her detective work over making connections with others. The rest of her life for Danganronpa 1 is covered in the light novels Danganronpa Kirigiri. That's right, my girl got her own side series, Soleil. But as I'm just talking about Trigger Happy Havoc here, I'm going to move on to the events of the actual game. After Mizono's death, it's clear that Kirigiri is going to be Nagi's next sidekick due to her helping him in the trial and reassuring him afterwards that Mizono's iconic 11037 message was written for him. Though to be honest, Nagi ends up being her sidekick, as throughout the game she does her own investigations around the school and only asks for Nagi's assistance when she deems it necessary. As the game progresses, Kirigiri discovers more and more about the school. At the end of chapter 4, Kirigiri sneaks into the headmaster's room as Sakura broke down the door, while Nagi is distracting Monokuma. She steals Monokuma's key, allowing her to access every room in the school. She discovers a 16th student and immediately informs Nagi, and of course she had to serve face while doing it. Tagami suspects Kirigiri of working with the mastermind due to her unknown talent. She confesses that she cannot remember her talent, but Tagami thinks she's lying and asks her for a room key. To his surprise, Kirigiri gives it to him. She once again asks Nagi to distract Monokuma so she can unlock and investigate other rooms with the Monokuma key. However, Kirigiri is missing the next day. Nagi has a fever and sees a masked figure holding a knife above his bed. When he closes his eyes and reopens them, Kirigiri is there. It turns out that the mastermind was trying to murder Nagi, but of course best girl Kirigiri saves the day. Kirigiri reappears for the 5th trial, which surprises everyone as they assumed her to be dead. She tells Nagi that she was investigating the 2nd floor of the dorms, but no worries. She still had time to investigate the body, so she'll be carrying the trial as per usual. Kirigiri is framed for this murder due to a key that was placed in her room. However, Nagi knows that she has Monokuma's key, but she still could have gone inside of her room. The player is given the choice to either expose her lie or to stay silent. If you tell the group that she was lying, Kirigiri is executed and the killing game continues in the weirdest way possible. But if you don't, Nagi's executed instead. Or he should have. But Deus Ex alter ego saves him by having him slide down the garbage chute. Feeling an overwhelming amount of negative emotions for probably the first time in her life, Kirigiri saves Nagi from the garbage room. She gives him food and water as an apology for letting him sacrifice himself. She explains that it was a necessary move as she believed that she was an important piece in the puzzle. She was the only person who couldn't remember her talent, so surely she was important to solving the mystery of the killing game. So she was nerfed for the sake of the killing game, but now she remembers who she is. And as they're leaving the room, she tells him that her dad was the headmaster of Hope's Peak, and she had specifically come to the school to find him. At the beginning of chapter 6, Kirigiri demands that the mastermind reopens the case from chapter 5, as it was clearly manipulated by them. Monokuma reluctantly agrees and opens up all the secret areas in the school for the students to investigate. During this investigation, Kirigiri discovers that Jin had passed away. This was the opening cutscene at the beginning of the game. Kirigiri is outwardly indifferent to this revelation, but internally she is torn. Through the picture of her on his desk and the fact that the password to the secret room was her own name, it's clear that Jin greatly cared for his daughter, which was a surprise to Kyoko, as she believed that he had abandoned her. As per usual, Kirigiri carries the final trial, but it was thanks to Naigi's hope that she's able to regain her own. Wow, that was a lot. Kirigiri certainly had a large impact on the story, especially as she was the one who got stuff done. Personally, I am really attached to this character, if you couldn't tell, so my view of her is certainly biased. But I've always admired how capable she is. Even when she couldn't remember important aspects of herself, she was still determined to solve the cases and the various mysteries of the killing game. Unlike Asahina, Kirigiri struggled to have attachments to others, but it's through her partnership with Naigi that she starts to open up to others, which I think is really sweet. Practically, Kirigiri is a really OP character, which the game openly addresses by having her not remember her talent. They definitely could have embedded her usefulness in a way less obvious way, but regardless, I really like how much control she has in this game. As I said earlier, she's meant to be Naigi's sidekick, but honestly, he's the one doing side quests so she can do her thing. She may not be the most unique character, but Danganronpa would not be the same without her. She was the one who discovered the identity of the 16th student first, after all. You might have been watching this amazing video and thought to yourself, why do I feel like I'm missing someone? And don't you worry, poor viewer, I did. I thought it would be best to discuss Makuro's character near the end of the video, as her character pretty much fully revolves around the last character I'll be discussing. So let's get into it.
Hi, I'm
Makuro Ikusaba. Makuro is the older twin of Junko, and the two were close growing up. At one point in their childhood, Makuro joins a mercenary group called Fenrir. She spends her early life on the battlefield, becoming skilled enough to be titled the Ultimate Soldier. She returns to Japan to attend Hope's Peak Academy alongside Junko, and together they successfully spread despair around the world. They started the killing game as a way to fully eradicate hope in the world, but for it to work, Junko would have to work solely behind the scenes to make sure it all kept running. Makuro participated in the killing game as her sister. Makuro uses Photoshop as an excuse. This is an easily forgettable moment in the early game, but it's such a cool detail for those replaying the game. Their plan was for Makuro to break the rules and have Monokuma pretend to kill her, but Junko betrays her sister and murders her on the spot. After everything Makuro did for her, Junko got rid of her just so she could feel despair. To make things worse, she uses Makuro's body in Chapter 5 to frame Kirigiri. Can't the poor girl just rest in peace? It's a shame that it isn't much about Makuro that doesn't revolve around Junko in this game, but I'm glad that her character was further explored in Danganronpa If. I won't be going into this as I'm thinking of covering all the side stories in a separate video, but I think she really is an interesting character who I wish was more relevant in her starring game. Last, but certainly not least, it's time to talk about the mastermind herself, Junko Enoshima.
Hi, I'm Junko Enoshima.
Junko got into Hope's Peak as the ultimate fashionista, but unlike the other characters, she's got multiple ultimate titles. She's also the super high school level analytical prowess due to her ability to memorize her surroundings and to instantly learn new skills. Her other title is the ultimate despair, which is pretty self-explanatory. Junko became interested in despair at a very young age, as it was the only thing in life that she found to be unpredictable which excited her. During the killing game, she controls Monokuma, though she finally reveals herself to the survivors in the final trial. It's revealed that she was the masked figure who tried to kill Naigi in Chapter 5, but now that they had cornered her, she was still determined to make them all feel despair. She makes the group vote for either hope or despair. Despair making the group live in the school forever, but Naigi will be executed because Junko has beef with him. Or they could vote for hope, which would allow the group to escape. While the latter seems like the obvious answer, Junko dissuades them from choosing hope by showing them the state of the outside world. Throughout the trial, Junko takes on different personas such as an intelligent one, a cutesy one, and a vulgar one. She does this due to her chronic boredom. I find this quirk to be so interesting, and it makes a lot of sense for her character. Having the main antagonist of this game be the same age as the other characters is so terrifyingly brilliant. While it is pretty unrealistic that a couple teenage girls brought about Armageddon, it perfectly encapsulates what Danganronpa is all about. It's so over the top and wacky, but it's a fun journey to be on. Junko has become an iconic character in video game history, and for good reason. The students vote for hope, which means that Junko must execute herself. But she goes out with a bang. She goes through all the executions seen thus far, her execution ending in Naigi's, though unfortunately for her, Alter Ego is in sleep mode, so there she goes, never to be seen again. And with that, I've covered all the women of Trigger Happy Havoc. The cast for this game is well balanced and overall has a large impact on the games going forward. I love how the female characters were explored with such a wide range, whether they be completely selfish or selfless, overly emotional or emotionless. This game had it all. I do wish that Fukawa's DID was treated with more respect and that the bath scene just didn't exist. But overall, the writing of the female characters was consistently good, and they all add a lot to the story. Let's hope that continues in Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair. Thank you all for watching this video. I really enjoyed going down memory lane by exploring these characters, as Danganronpa's always meant a lot to me, and I haven't really talked about it in a video before, so it was really fun. I'm hoping to make the next part soon, so I hope you're all looking forward to it. Comment down below what you liked about the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe! Until next time, bye bye! Never 心は染まらない The end of the world 絶望にわずかな希望握りしめて震える指で狙い定めて未来を咲かせ